In Germany, tuition is free. In Norway, free. In Finland, free. In Canada, the average undergraduate now pays over $7,000 a year, and a medical degree can exceed $100,000. But Canada once built an affordable university system too. It worked. Then a single federal budget quietly dismantled it. No one ever really asked the country whether that was the right call. In 1967, Canada formally set out to design the future of its universities. The Commission on the Financing of Higher Education, frequently called the Bladen Commission, concluded that higher education was not a personal consumer product, but a collective public investment. At the time, campus enrollments were doubling. The Commission warned that if the country did not support this expansion through public tax dollars, rising tuition fees would quickly lock out talented students from lower-income families. The resulting report established a clear philosophy. University access must be protected as a public good, completely independent of family wealth. Under this funding model, the federal government acted as the primary financial anchor, channeling massive transfers to the provinces to ensure they could keep tuition low and predictable. Throughout the late 1960s, public operating assistance to universities grew by an average of 7% annually, easily outpacing inflation and allowing campuses to expand rapidly. For decades, this system worked. Students could attend a world-class Canadian university with tuition fees kept under $100 per year, largely designated for ancillary services rather than core classroom instruction. This was a deliberate policy choice. Governments shouldered the cost of training the workforce because a highly educated population benefited the entire society, not just the individual student. During the 1970s, this financial partnership operated as a steady stabilizer. Under the post-Bladen arrangements, the federal government sent massive, predictable cash transfers directly to provincial treasuries. The provinces, in turn, used these funds to absorb the actual cost of operating universities. This mechanism meant that even as student enrollment surged and campuses constructed new libraries, laboratories, and lecture halls, the direct cost to families remained flat. Throughout this decade, nominal tuition fees in most provinces stayed below $500 per year. In real terms, a student could easily cover their entire annual tuition by working a standard summer job for just a few weeks. The model was designed specifically to prevent student debt from becoming a barrier to entry. Institutional funding did not depend on student fees to balance the books, and instead the public treasury treated higher education as an essential public service, much like healthcare or transport infrastructure. By keeping the consumer price of a degree decoupled from the actual cost of running an institution, Canada built a remarkably stable and accessible system. It proved that low-cost higher education was a functioning national reality, rather than an idealistic theory. The system worked and only needed someone to keep paying for it. In February 1995, the federal government decided to stop paying. Facing a mounting national deficit, Finance Minister Paul Martin tabled a budget that permanently reshaped the country's social contract. At its core was a single drastic measure, a $7 billion cut to established programs financing transfers, the very cash flow that had anchored public funding for healthcare and post-secondary education since the late 1960s. By replacing these targeted funds with a block grant system called the Canada Health and Social Transfer, the federal government effectively stepped back from its post-war commitments. The provinces suddenly faced a massive fiscal vacuum. Rather than absorbing the losses or raising taxes to cover the difference, provincial governments across the country chose to reduce direct operating grants to universities. The impact on campus was immediate. Universities left with shrinking public subsidies passed the financial pressure directly to students by raising tuition fees. In Ontario, this policy mechanism was laid bare. Between 1995 and 1998, average undergraduate tuition in the province jumped by 50%, soaring from roughly $2,500 to nearly $3,800 in just 3 years. This dramatic spike occurred independently of normal inflation or economic growth. It was the direct, measurable outcome of a federal policy choice. In a matter of months, a system designed to treat higher education as a shared public investment began treating it as an individual purchase, setting a new baseline for generations to come. While undergraduate tuition climbed steadily, a separate policy shift in Ontario pioneered an even faster track to high fees. In 1993, the provincial government removed the statutory tuition caps on professional programs, turning law, medicine, dentistry, and business schools into market-rate experiments. The response was immediate. Within 5 years of deregulation, average law school fees in the province doubled. The logic was simple. If a degree led to a high-paying career, the student should pay a premium price for it. This philosophy quickly spread across high-demand faculties. By 2010, the total cost of earning a Canadian medical degree could easily exceed $100,000. What had once functioned as a public training pipeline for future doctors and lawyers was rebuilt as a luxury credential, priced according to what the market could bear, rather than what society needed. With domestic tuition caps and shrinking provincial grants squeezing campus balance sheets, universities turned to a different financial strategy. They looked beyond Canada's borders. Because federal and provincial policies limited how much institutions could charge Canadian residents, universities began recruiting international students, who faced no such caps. In the 2010s, federal immigration policies opened fast-track pathways for international study permits, transforming higher education into a major export industry. By 2023, Canada hosted 900,000 international students. These students paid an average of $36,000 per year in tuition, 3 to 5 times more than their domestic classmates. For years, this foreign revenue shielded provincial governments from having to properly fund their own campuses. But this model was highly vulnerable. In 2024, the federal government placed a hard cap on new study permits, causing international enrollment to plummet. The sudden loss of these premium fees exposed the fragility of a public system built on volatile global migration. To keep this high-fee model from collapsing, the state built a financial safety valve. The Canada Student Loans Program expanded rapidly through the 1990s and the 2000s, pacing every rise in tuition. By 2024, the federal student loan portfolio surpassed $22 billion, with more than 300,000 Canadians in repayment at any given time. Instead of funding universities directly, the government redirected public dollars to backstop individual borrowing. Today, the average graduate leaves school carrying $28,000 in debt. This policy choice shifted the risk entirely to the next generation, who were handed the bill and told this was normal. Ultimately, Canada's answer to the affordability crisis was not cheaper education, but easier debt. In 1975, a Canadian university student paid the equivalent of about $1,800 per year in today's money. By 2024, that average annual cost climbed to $7,076. While tuition multiplied, starting wages stagnated and housing costs soared, compounding the financial pressure. This gap changed a university degree from a straightforward path to the middle class into a heavy intergenerational burden. Today's students did not design this system, nor did they vote for the funding cuts that created it. Yet they are the ones who inherited the bill, entering adulthood under a manufactured normal, where buying an education means buying a lifetime of debt. Today, Canada's students carry a burden manufactured by policy, not necessity. By choosing to finance debt instead of degrees, we traded public opportunity for private liability. Until we demand a return to education as a public good, the next generation will keep paying for that choice. Share your thoughts below.